I'm
Wait,
just,
how do I look? I don't look that good with these on?
you look fine, but if another option is
Hmm.
a wireless AirPod, and the nice part about AirPods, you could use them for other things. So, and the latest version isn't too expensive, especially with the kind of money you make. You'll be fine.
I will say this, and I'm not trying. I mean, I really want them, and but Kimber keeps reminding me that I do lose things quite easily. So I don't want to. They're expensive in a way, aren't they? Like 150 or $200?
Best Buy, $200 right now. If you tell them that Amazon has them for $200, or Amazon for $200.
Okay.
So,
Welcome, everybody, to the show. Thank you for joining us. And today we have return guest Cris Aguilar. Welcome, Cris.
Odie, I'm back.
You're back, and you're back to discuss the 48 Laws of Power again, part two. And um, so I thought we would continue it because it's so hard to capture it in one video. And so when I last left off, when we last discussed, we talked about law number four, which is always say less than necessary. And so I wanted to cover that law in a few minutes, but I want to say less right now by turning it over to you, Cris, and asking you about the law that you want to talk about, and just even generally, what did what did you think of the book?
I have a couple of different thoughts overall in the book. I might have mentioned this last time. I haven't rewatched the last one, but um, I definitely liked the two types of laws. There was these really easy to consume and easy to accept that maybe you could grab something out of the law. But there was also that other side where you're like, oh my gosh, this is total manipulation. But as I've thought through it, I even like that because obviously you can turn that around and use that when you feel like someone's manipulating you. So overall, great. The one big thing also I still keep thinking is there's just so many laws, 48 laws, I think, total, right? That's the name of the book, 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah.
So you get a little lost. You get a little lost in what to grab from the book. And so this time, as I reread a few of the chapters, I said, I'm just going to pick, just there's so many, just pick one or two to really try to drill in a little bit more. So yeah, overall, great. Great. I don't know if Jake, you have the same kind of thoughts.
Oh, I feel the same way as you do. Actually, I think the ones I picked this time for us to talk about, I'm not sure if we're gonna get to two or three or hopefully a couple, but they're all, I think both of them, the ones I looked at, were just exactly what you said. Uh, Laws that maybe I wouldn't do, but I should be aware of other people using them on me because like you said last episode, Ruben, Chris, that people may use it on us, and you said it right now too. So I think it's smart to read this book. If people have not read this book, they should because I know a lot of power people have read it.
So this is a way to kind of understand yourself and understand people better. I guess you would find this book in the self-help section, and there's some useful tools. But I do want to say before I turn it over and ask you, Cris, to talk about a particular law. The book was sitting on my desk this week at work, and um, just so that I could refresh some of the laws. And two different students saw it and said, "Mister, you read this?" And they're both really responded in a just emphatic way. This idea of, "I can't believe, wow, what did you think?" "I've read it, Mister, but I don't know. It's straight. It's ooh." Like they were very impacted by it. And so when you read it, I don't think you are neutral. As we've mentioned in the past, some people don't, and you just mentioned it, some people interpret it as manipulative, and it can be, but okay. What's your thought on a law that you want to talk about, Cris?
A little bit of a transition, Ruben. I did start this time around as I got back into this book into reading a summary, and the summary of the book starts out by saying, and it kind of goes along with what you were saying about your students. is that it's outlawed in US and or some penitentiaries around the world. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if this summary is just trying to, uh, sensationalize, this book, but sensationalize it. But overall, yeah, you could see why it's controversial. It's hard to think through some of them as positive things. But I chose for my first chapter to focus on 35, mastering the art of timing. I sense the overall idea of the chapter is to basically achieve success when there's crucial timing involved. So as I look back on my life, I try to really personalize this one. I see that there's definitely some times in my life where something big was happening. And I'm going to use technology this time around to kind of make my point. But it doesn't have to necessarily be technology because obviously this is has to do with your personal life and timing and the art of timing for you as an individual. But I look back in my early 20s, for sure, even in my teens, and I had an uncle that really pressed on me. By the way, I'll give a shout out to Bernie Ibarra, my uncle Bernie. He really emphasized technology and focusing on. I think he saw that I had an interest in technology, and he just said, "Hey, man, you if that's what you want to do, pursue it, look into it, study it. There's gonna be great things." I think he also had that interest, and maybe that's why he also pushed me towards that. I'm very, very grateful to him and that push because I feel like the timing of it was perfect. And when I didn't have all the tools to pursue that, but the little bit I got helped me so much. And then I was able to actually move forward and learn quite a bit to help myself and others, my income and all that stuff. Um, so I would say the art of timing has been really, really key. And that includes things like, being patient for the right moment, looking at the times. By the way, so fast forward, so that technology when I was in my teens and early 20s was when the internet was pushing forward. Fast forward to I'm 55 now. Fast forward to this time and specifically the blockchain and with AI, I think we're in the same. For me personally, I see the same things happening. There's this big change that's about to happen. So, am I in that right place with the right knowledge, willing to invest my time mostly into learning this? So, being patient, recognizing that it's the right time for this kind of thing, anticipating that change, looking at it and saying, "Oh man, is this really something to invest in?" And then when I figure out that timing, if I figure out that opportunity to strike and go big on that opportunity, on that, if this is truly the right time, and then also, as we know in life, if you made a mistake, if if you didn't hit gold, if you didn't hit pay dirt, you gotta get out and you have to retreat. So the whole idea of timing, the power of timing is just I thought was fantastic. So yeah,
Is the law saying basically strike while the iron's hot, or is it giving you tools to know when to access the right times, when to
I,
hit something, whether it be investment or understanding when to, you know, go in on an enterprise of some type?
it's the whole idea of just making sure that you're paying attention to the times. Master the art of timing. So looking at the times. Let's just look at even politics. We'll change it so it's not at all about even your income. Just looking at politics and saying, well, we can even look at LA and what's happening right now with the fires and paying attention to the time. It definitely. I'm going to speak as an Angelino, as someone in LA. Maybe this is too controversial, but I feel like we have been failed because the politicians, those in charge, not just politicians, but even those in charge of the water, the power, they were not looking at the times. They were not clearly looking at what was around us and what was going to happen. So it's looking at what's happened around you and man, we need to I need to invest my time, my energy, my money. You can look at the stock market the same way, looking at it and saying, man, is this a great time to invest in the stock market? Or is this a horrible time to invest in the stock market? So looking at the times, and then when you make a decision, go for it. But then also looking at the times saying, oh, maybe I should back off. This is the wrong decision. Don't be afraid to retreat. So it's looking at the overall, it's not really giving you the tools. It's saying take a step back and look and pay attention and then go after it if you believe this is the right time.
I like that.
Well, it kind of even it kind of alludes to the law I liked was going to talk about, which is Law 28, enter actions with boldness. But you can kind of see things if you pay attention, you can see that this is a particular time to take action in certain ways. Um, if you think about AI right now, this is the dawn of AI, and you can take advantage. That's just one example because some people might ask the question, well, how do we know when something is a good timing? But you can sort of see around you what's happening in technology. But let's go with you, Jake. What do you think?
Yeah, that was good, Chris. Well, I actually picked 31 for my first one. The title is Control the Options, Get Others to Play with the Cards You Deal. This could be used. At first, I thought I would never use it, but I think I've used it in the past. As we were talking, I was thinking that when my kids were little, if they weren't going to eat the peas, I would give them a salad. So they're giving a choice. They're getting a choice: peas or salad. Now, obviously, either one is good, but they don't know that. They're going to go with one they're feeling they're empowered to make a choice. So I think that's a good idea. We've all done that, with people. So it's not exactly a manipulative one, but they do share a really cool story. I'll say it really quickly regarding a French courtesan in the mid 1600s, where she was this her name was actually Ninon de Lenclos, and Ninon was back in the day these courtesans they they were I mean, I hate to say they're prostitutes, but they also were intelligent. They love to read poetry, right, and so forth, and they're intelligent. And they play music, and so the whole point is that she realized that time's running out, and I'm going to be an old lady with not that much money. I got to reinvent myself here. She went into a nunnery for a little while. She thought about it. She came out and she said, "You know what? I'm going to do things a little differently." And so she said, "Some men will come approach me and I may sleep with them. I may not. We may have a good time. We may talk about music and so forth. Um, but I'm going to decide." And that was big because back in the day, courtesans they slept with anybody who came to them, right? After a while, and so people were going, "Wow, she's choosing." And then there were some. She said, "You know what? Some men will come to me, and we'll just have a good time. We'll hang out, listen to read poetry together with each other, but nothing's going to happen." But one of those people that I don't, that doesn't pay me, I'm going to choose as my boyfriend for like a day, a week, a month, maybe a couple months. And so the whole point of this, Ruben and Chris, is that she was saying, "Hey, you have a opportunity to come and see me. I may or may not spend time with you intimately." And some people who know for sure they're not going to spend time with her intimately may be chosen as her boyfriend. So they're like, "Hey, we're all in on it." So her whole deal was that she was able to accumulate wealth, and she died an old woman with a lot of money. So you're gonna say something, Ruben?
Yeah. So the message is make sure who you prostitute yourself with is the
No,
right
the
person.
message is that, is that
What's
she
the
gave
law again? What's the law? If you repeat the law.
control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. So she was dealing at one time. She had to sleep with everybody, but then she got to a point where she
What
realized
number? What
31,
number law is it?
31. I
31.
think we're reading
Okay.
this. I'm reading the same book, right? The 48 laws. But
Well,
yeah,
I missed when you said what law was. I just
it
missed it
was
because I was
31. I'm sorry. It was 31.
joking over here. We're having a wildfire situation.
Yeah, so I mean, and the
So
last thing I would share is that I mean, they gave it a lot. The reason why I love this book is there's a lot of historical anecdotes, right? A lot of pieces from the past that you could use. One last thing, he did use Kissinger as well, where he always thought he was pretty smart, right? And he was a smart man, dealing with Nixon, and he would always give Nixon four or five choices or four or five things that were happening, and say, hey, which one do you think? We should do this A, B, C, D, or E. But he always would push the C, let's say, and he was able to get Nixon to choose the one that he was hoping that he would choose. And so obviously a skill, and if you're not doing it, others may be doing it to you, right? So I thought it was interesting just because I always want to be aware of of who I'm doing work with, and am I really choosing, or are these two things being chosen for me? So no, I
I
liked it.
think when somebody chooses it for you to try to control the options, you can try to control your options the way you filter yourself. I say this as a teacher who has been given certain things to teach, or certain frameworks by which I'm kind of like the cards that are dealt, but I don't necessarily have to play exactly the game they're playing. I can I can switch things around too, so that I can perform in a way that's comfortable for me, if that makes any
Oh yeah,
sense.
and haven't you done that, Ruben, where you give a couple
Yeah.
assignments and you go A or B, and they're both good things, but you know that the kids are choose B, which is
Well,
fine. They're still getting something out of
I,
it.
I actually meant, when I'm given an assignment or a unit to teach in a certain framework,
Gotcha.
I have to do it the way I'm comfortable doing it. But to your point, that's true too. Yes, I agree that you also do that to students. You give them options so that they're not put in a box. They have the freedom to express themselves in the way that they are comfortable with. Sometimes you have to, though, kind of point them in a very strict direction.
For
Just
sure.
depend on students. Yes, I agree that in the book, it it gives historical lessons along with the laws, and they call it keys to power, observation of the law. We mentioned this last video, but I'll repeat it. So they'll give the law, and then they'll say, here's an observation of the law. Here's a transgression. So law number four, always say less than necessary. And there was a really good transgression of the law from a warrior named Coriolanus. Coriolanus. He had this mystique in Rome because of his accomplishments in the battlefield. And so people really saw this guy as a hero. And they really, feted him, and they brought him in, and they celebrated him until he opened his mouth. That's when the mystique went away, and he started slandering people, and he started backbiting. And the people interpreted that as an insecurity when you start to slander like that. And so he lost that mystique. And so I think that the temptation when we're perhaps working and we're building something is to talk about ourselves, is to, and it reminds me of what, ancient literature, ancient wisdom from the Bible, where it talks about where there are many words, there is emptiness. So there are some good principles here that we've been brought up by, in that sense. And I think for me, one last application, in terms of like teaching, there's been a lot of like discussion around, at least at our school, Jacob. I don't know if it's true about your school, is I'm hearing teachers say, I haven't gotten this feedback yet, which is good, but I'm
Uh,
hearing teachers saying, I'm getting the feedback of stop lecturing so much to I'm hearing a lot of lecturing. Have you heard some of that feedback
oh, I would say for
about?
the last 3 or 4 years, it's all
Okay.
about less lecturing.
Less. And so to me, it's me reflecting on this idea of always say less than necessary, because we think it's all about in our speeches and in our lectures, but people don't hear that. They start to their eyes glaze over when you talk too much. So I'm really trying to practice that in my life, in terms of teaching, in terms of even my interactions with people socially. And I want to say, I mentioned this on a video, maybe it was this the last 48 Laws video, but the issue of sarcasm. I really like the way he pointed out one of the last sentences in this law. He says, the momentary satisfaction from sarcasm will be outweighed by the price you pay for it. And it's so true. I never heard it articulated like that because in my sarcasm, there is a satisfaction to it. It's the laugh that I'm gonna get. It's the, oh, aren't I being clever by that sarcastic remark? But there's a price you're gonna pay for that. And I've really tried to inculcate that in my life to not be so sarcastic. And I found myself in the context of the teacher's lounge biting my tongue and saying, it's not worth it, Ruben. Don't say it. It's not, it might not even get a laugh. And there's a really great transgression of the law where the Russian, dissident speaking against the Tsar found himself on the gallows, about to get executed. They swung him from the rope and the rope breaks, by an act of God, I guess. And the guy, instead of being grateful, says, you see, not even the ropes in Russia work right, work properly. And the way the law ran back then is if you, by fortune, survive the gallows, they let you go, they pardon you. So when the Tsar got the notice that the rope broke, he was signing the pardon letter. And then he said, what did he say by this grace of God? What was his response? They told him what he said about the rope. Even in Russia, the ropes don't work. And he goes, well, you know what? We're going to see to it that the rope works tomorrow. And he ripped up the pardon. And the next day he hanged. So it's that idea of you have to get it out because he knew there was going to be a laugh line. That's a laugh line. The ropes don't work.
Right.
But was it worth it? It's a really meaningful law that can pay dividends. So
I
I
think
really like it.
though, I mean, with time, Ruben, because I feel like I'm dealing with a lot of the same things that you're sharing regarding sarcasm, just kind of bite your tongue. I think a lot of it has to do with just even maturing. You're getting older, just realizing even that story you just shared, that you know what, sometimes there's consequences that you don't foresee, or maybe you do foresee them, but it's not worth it. But yeah, very good.
Okay, what about you, Chris? What's another law you wish to discuss?
Uh, Chapter 36. Disdain things you cannot have, ignoring them is the best revenge. Sounds kind of harsh, or like we all want to get out and get some revenge. But I really like this one mainly as it focuses in on things that you can't have. It could be power that you can't have. Let's say you're, in the job on the job and you didn't get that promotion, or you don't have the team that you want. You don't have the budget that you wish you had. You don't have the teacher. In some cases, some of your students might be thinking, I don't have the teacher that I want. Things that you cannot have, just ignoring them and moving on with your life, focusing in on other things, basically denying the attention that that particular issue might have on you normally. I think our enemies in this case, the book talks a lot more like friends and enemies. In this case, it's more of an enemy. It could be a time, or like I said, like a budget or something that you can't have. So just denying that any kind of attention, and really avoiding any conflict with that person or with that situation. Very similar, what you guys were talking about as far as saying the right things, and or saying less, more important, more to the point. So avoiding those conflicts, avoiding that attention on that particular issue. So I really like it on that, and also when you don't give in to that, when you're not giving into that talking point into your life, you're not giving it any kind of attention.
Yeah,
You're able to control yourself because
I
it's
feel
not
like
pressing on you.
I feel like that law, that chapter was misnamed. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I like it too. I like that chapter as well, but I'm going to repeat what the law says. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have, ignoring them is the best revenge. It's two different things though. Disdaining, at least I took it that disdaining things you cannot have had to do with material possessions almost, or social things, or maybe a relationship that you can't get or something. But he was talking about people, and by transgression of the law, he mentioned the Pancho Villa thing, where the American government kind of created Pancho Villa because they kept going after him, and they created this folklore around Pancho Villa because they didn't just ignore him, right? There's a really great quote somewhere in there where he says, ignore the gnat or ignore the little critter that's going to die anyway. But by focusing on him or her, they grow in importance and stature. So it's really interesting because we fuel our enemies maybe by there's a lot of great applications as a teacher, by the way, when you're up and you hone in on these students who are acting foolish, or they turn in something late, and they get a zero. You have to go back, you saying something, but you can just ignore it and move on. There's it really is a useful tool.
For sure,
Yeah.
as far as remembering that you have your own path and your own goals. Like you said with Pancho Villa, the gnat or that martyr that you can create, it will blow up on you. While instead remembering you have your own path, you have your own goals. By allowing those distractions to go by the wayside, you really give yourself focus towards your own objectives. So, yeah, really, really important in achieving your goal. So, yeah, definitely like this one in regards to that.
Yeah. I do want to say one thing. There was a debate that I think you saw it, Chris, and I'm not sure if Ruben saw it regarding Huff. I'm trying to remember his first name versus is it Jimmy Carson, I think? And it was online. Was it, am I right, Chris, for the names?
It's Wesley Huss, I
Wesley
believe,
Huff. Wesley Huff, yes.
and it is Benny Carson. No, I don't know. I forget
That's
the first
Carson.
name of the
Something I
guy,
think
but
it's Jimmy
Carson.
Carson,
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
Carson. But the whole point is this: that kind of share Ruben shared is that it was like a this was like a debate that nobody saw really until the guy who lost the debate started talking about it. And he spent 3 hours talking about it on his podcast, and then the whole world saw it. Most because he was promoting his dissatisfaction on a debate that he totally lost. And so that just kind of when you were sharing that, Ruben and Chris, that triggered my mind that there are times where you just got to keep quiet, and things will die out. But if you start bringing more, fanning the flames, it's going to get out of control. So sorry the pun. That's
Uh,
probably not a good for for these
Yeah, I
kind
mean
of.
that's a great example. It's a Billy Carson, by the way. I looked it up real quick. That's a great example because Billy Carson ends up threatening to sue, sending letters, um, showing up at that guy's after the debate, showing up at his doorstep because he lost so poorly. He showed up at his doorstep, and that just fueled the fire of the internet. I
For
mean,
sure.
people were just so upset, and before you know it, Wesley Huff is being invited on the biggest podcast of all time and presenting the Bible in obviously a totally different way than Billy Carson was. So that debate just blew up on him, and now Billy Carson is having to backtrack and say he's
Yeah.
sorry. He's not doing a great job at that, from what I see. I haven't looked in the last week or so about what's going on, but yeah, he made a big mess by not focusing in on what even his own mistakes, just saying, I'm sorry, man, I messed up. I blew it. I was wrong. As simple as that, and walking away and just saying, hey, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done. But no, he piled on to his own mess. But anyway,
Right.
Is there another law, Jacob, that you wanted to bring up?
I have one last one, and it was kind of an interesting one. I was struggling with it because at first I was like, I don't like this law. It's number 26. It says keep your hands clean. And the whole idea is to, look for scapegoats to promote yourself, and you might have to hurt somebody, right? In this case, they show some historical had shared some historical stories where people actually died for the king or because they used a person for a scapegoat to get out of get out of some type of trouble. And so I didn't even know what scapegoat meant, but I guess you guys probably know, right? It was used, the Jewish Jews used goats, of course, we knew for sacrifice and instead for your sins, right? So instead of you dying for your sins, they killed a goat or another animal. So that's where the scapegoat comes from. But then, but as I was reading that chapter, it talks about the cat claw or the monkey, the whole story regarding monkey, where the monkey used his buddy, the cat's paw, I'm sorry, the cat paw, and used it to fish out some nuts out of a fire. And so then that sounds pretty horrible. But as the chapter was going on, it said, you know what, sometimes you could be the cat paw, um, and you could help somebody. You could go through some difficult times to build somebody else. And one of the examples for that was these two Chinese men who were really good friends. And friend letter A, or I'll say friend number one, he had a really tough time holding on to money, and he would get in debt, and he would help people a lot. And then friend number two saw that he got into debt, and so he figured out a way to be able to sell or give him a good that was worth quite a bit of money. So his friend number one, would be able to sell that to make money till he got out of trouble. So basically, he sacrificed this precious, I think it was a vase, so he could help his friend who got in trouble quite a bit. And so he basically sacrificed himself. He was the cat paw, right, to for his friend. And I thought, wow, that's what we need to do in life is to sacrifice ourselves for our friends, our family, take the fire, because that's just what life is about, I think, to do that. So anyway, I
But
really
I
like that
mean,
one.
well, what's the application? What do you mean take the fire for a friend?
The
What would
idea,
be what
the
would be
idea
an
is that,
example? What would be a real example of you taking the fire for a friend? Because that sounds very sacrificial, maybe overly. Help me understand what you mean by that.
well, I mean,
Give me an example of somebody doing that for you or you doing that for them so that we understand what you mean.
right. That's a good point. I can't think of one off the bat. I do think of an example that was brought in the book though regarding that, Ruben, and that was an example of I'm trying to remember the person's name. I think it was I have it here. Um, it, it,
Well,
it
I mean, you get you.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just
go
trying to
ahead.
remember. Anyway, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but able to he did something for a queen, right? I think he sacrificed some clothing, whatever, on the ground so she could go over it. I think it might have been Queen Victoria, and she honored him. So that was something he got his clothes ruined, and obviously for the queen, he didn't have to do that. But so sometimes we do things I think sacrificing is okay. Uh, I don't think that's a negative thing. So that's a minimal item where you lose clothing, but sometimes we make sacrifices in our lives to help a friend, to help a
Right,
relative.
right. But let me throw this out at you so
Yeah,
we put some application on this so it's
sure.
clear to me because I'm not sure how people would interpret that. And it might not be as intense as it sounds. So this week we were reading Othello with my
Hmm.
students, and at one point, Othello thinks his wife is cheating on him, and she's not, but Othello doesn't. Othello doesn't know for sure because his friend is whispering in his ear that she is, and we find out that he's the biggest scoundrel of all time. But anyway, her friend tells knows how Desdemona, his wife, is true. And she says this to Othello. She says, I stake my reputation on her loyalty. I stake my own. And I find that that's a useful tool because a lot of people, a true friend would do that. They would say, I put my own reputation on the line for this. I know
Right.
they're telling you the truth.
That's a good
And
example.
I just Yeah, and I think it's something that a friend will do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we find out in the fire of friendships
Hmm.
who people really are.
Yeah.
And some people won't do that for you. Some people won't defend you. So it could just be their word defending you to somebody else. And I've been in that situation where a friend did the opposite
Threw you
and
under the
threw me
bus.
under. Yes. So I just want to put some meat on those bones because
No, I think
it
that's good.
can be a little bit,
Because
yeah.
there's opportunities out there where that will happen, where you may have to sacrifice your reputation a little bit for a friend or your maybe even with your family, as long as you feel like you're helping someone. And yeah, it's and the reason why I liked it though too, Ruben, Chris, is that a lot of these rules, the writers didn't really care about a lot of good coming out of it sometimes, as long as you get what you're going to get. But this was one of the few times he said, hey, this is one time where you could help somebody. And I thought, wow, that hardly ever is being talked about in this book. So that's why I thought it was a little different and liked it. And I liked it.
He
Very
often
good.
follows it. He kind of follows it up though sometimes with yeah, help someone else so that you get something out of it down the road and
Okay, that's right.
manipulate it. So I mean, you got to kind of take these with a grain of salt
Yeah,
and
but
know that
but
it's manipulation
but we could
sometimes.
pretend that we don't want anything down the road, but we all do. If we're in a negotiated friendship with somebody, we want something from them at some level. We're in a romantic relationship. We want something from them. I mean, we could say no, it's all because we're serving them, but
No,
you know what I mean?
I've
Like,
learned that's true. That's true. Even in I'm long married now in a couple of years. I'm being married with Veronica, and it is a two-way street. I'm not going to do 100% of the things that she's doing, and vice versa. But she's looking, and I'm looking for a person to have a contract with to serve each other, not one-way street. It is not a one, and I don't know of too many relationships. Even with your own kids, you want there to be a two-way street as they get older. You want there to be. It might look a little different, but you want to help them grow into it being a full relationship, you know.
for sure.
yeah. So I do want to, I guess, share one more law.
Hmm.
Man, I think Chris picked this one last time. It's so hard for me not to pick it, but we could remind people, and I'll maybe connect it with another one. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. And he had a really great observation of the law with Harry Houdini and the misinterpretation of Houdini's great accomplishments was because of gadgetry, but that no, when you put in the hard work, you don't have to tell people. So make your accomplishments seem effortless, but you know what time you're putting in to make your um, presentation great, whatever it might be. And Houdini just spent hours by himself and even collaborating on a particular trick about he swallowed a steel ball, and regurgitated. Great examples there. But it just reminds me of that quote about Thomas Edison saying something like, um, I'm paraphrasing basically, but genius just looks like a pair of overalls and in a workshop for hours and hours in a day. That's the genius, right? It's just hard work. And I just think about like just to apply it, as I was thinking about who do I really admire who doesn't tell us anything, or we have scant information that's available to the public. We have some, and I keep thinking about the Dodgers leadership team who have accrued because people are right now are in this mode, and I get in this mode too of the Dodgers are getting too powerful. I even said that as recently as this week, but I have to check myself because at one point they weren't as powerful. But what they did is led by Magic Johnson. I give him a lot of credit. They accumulated a very smart team and they have access to information that they decided to look for and work hard for. And they do things a little bit differently. They somehow know things about how to field a team, how to position their players, a lot of data. And that took time. And you know what? We don't know what they do. We don't know their information because they don't share it. They don't make it public. They don't brag. That takes a lot of discipline because the human impulse is to brag. You do not see Gomes, their GM, or Friedman, and there's another guy named Josh. I forget his last name for the moment. They do not go public and they do not brag. And that says something about their characters and holding things to the vest. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Oh, it's easy how where they were. There was a time when that farm system was barren. and now they're loaded. So I see the Dodgers as a real good example of this.
That's true. And it looks like we're gonna have a great year with this new edition of rookie, right? So yeah,
Wouldn't
And
it
what
be, isn't it true though that that farm system has been built with a ton of money during the that last push of good times, and during those tough times, obviously LA is and New York and teams like that have a ton of money no matter what. But the kind of money they have now is because they kept investing in that farm system during the tough times, so that now they have a ton of money, and now they're still doing it. They're pushing so much money into these players' hands, and that will allow this to continue.
But remember, they have a draft every year, and there's no money into who they draft. It's just a draft. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Part of their
yeah.
success is who they're stocking their farm system with. And the Yankees have actually the Mets have more money than them, and the Yankees just as much. And they're not as successful. So yes, but I see your point is that they've accumulated now. Now they have a vast fortune, in part by their decisions. And now, teams want to jump in there. Like you said,
It's
Sasaki. Yeah.
it's interesting that Mets and New York Yankees have two great, a lot of great big money there for sure, big money, but not here in LA. Just one team. That other team down the road just cannot get it together on that, and they could definitely have a lot of money coming into that stadium.
I want to point something out, and I know this is not a baseball channel, but I do want to say this because this is how when we operate, sometimes we get in our way, we trip over ourselves, and the Angels have done that. I believe that the Angels nixed deals that could have benefited them because the Dodgers would have benefited. Think about that. You're going to benefit your own team. Who cares what happens to your enemy? So I think about the trade of Russ Stripling and Jock Peterson, that the Dodgers were going to send two very good players to the Angels, and the Dodgers weren't going to get much back. But they wanted to free up some space. I forget what the reasoning was. I think they were asking for a pick, some farm player, and the Angels said no because it was going to help the Dodgers. And I realized then they're not going to be great. If the Dodgers are in their heads like that, you know, it's not a good situation. So anyway,
yeah.
thank you for joining us. This has been very fruitful. Um, Law 28, enter actions with boldness. I'm glad we entered this action with boldness. Thank you for joining us, Cris.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.